Thanks. Good evening and welcome to the Litchfield School Board meeting on April 21st. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any revision to the agenda?
We do not.
I have the summary of non-public actions from April 7th, 2021. Mrs. Hirschberger made a motion to approve the March 17, 2021 non-public minutes. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried 5-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of Barb LaBelle, GMS music teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 5-0. I don't believe we have any presentations or recognitions tonight. So that brings us to community forum.
Right?
I'm trying to join here.
Oh, okay. Just as a reminder, you can join us at Google Meet at meet.google.com/HAR-JANA-HNK or join us by
Patrick, you're going to need to mute.
Or join us by Sorry.
I will mute him.
Okay. That's a whole lot of me. All right. Do you want to call on them? How do you want to do?
I think we just asked
Okay.
for community input.
Let's see. Emily, we have Emily Post. Would you like to share your thoughts with the board?
Hi, my name is Emily Post. I currently reside at.
So much happening.
So anybody who's on the feed has to turn. So Patrick, I think you either need to disconnect because you're in the room or turn your speakers and
My
your.
speakers were completely off. I muted them. Let me just turn on the volume, maybe instead of muting it.
Sorry,
Emily, let's try one more time.
Sorry,
Emily, let's
It's
try.
okay.
Emily, let's try.
It's okay.
Want me to close out, Mike? And see if
Yeah, I think you got it, Patrick. I'm assuming it's from you. Let's just see. Yeah, I think you got it, Patrick. I'm assuming it's from you. Let's just see. Is anybody else in this? No. Well, we are live. The only other thought is this hasn't happened before, so it's weird.
Are your speakers down, Mike?
That's what I'm thinking. Let me try that. Okay, Emily, let's try it one more time. Now you can't hear her. Hang on. Try again.
How about now?
Yay.
So far, so good.
Better.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
I think it's because of the delay with the.
With the
Cable, maybe?
no, go ahead, Emily.
Okay.
Keep. Go ahead and start your point. If we get stuck, we'll. Go ahead and start your point. If we get stuck,
Okay. I just had, as we kind of wrap up the whole year grading wise, I know that it comes up in a lot of the schools, and we are continually talking about what would be the best way to finalize grades, especially with our competency recovery days. And with that, I wanted to know kind of when will district PD be offered to us as teachers to create a consistent grading practice throughout the entire district in order to support the newly mandated grading system that's allowed for all of these varied grading practices. Specifically though, when is that PD going to be offered during our contracted professional development days?
You want to hit it, Mary, or do you want me to?
In terms of
first of all, we're still in process of trying to finalize those grading pieces. Grading and reporting committee has hit some impasses with it. This summer, again, not contracted time, but this summer it will be paid time to do some work around getting some of that consistency done. And then it's a goal that will be done in PLCs next year. I had some
Okay,
conversation
so there
with,
will be no, sorry.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
So with that, so there will be no true professional district-led PDs on Power School and how it is meant to be implemented.
In Power School itself, we will run sessions when we're going to do a full 3 days in August before we go back to school, and then there will be some training in those first days back. Sorry, I misunderstood I was thinking more philosophically, not based on Power School itself.
Are we done all the district PD days for the year?
Yeah,
Can we just
so
clarify that?
I think a point to clarify is that district PD is done. There will be, at Live to Learn Academy, there will be some training, but that's not required. That'll be optional for teachers who sign
Not
up
to
for
interrupt you, Dr. Jetty, but I can't really, all the feedback.
Mhm.
it. I don't know the answer to this. I'm
Yeah.
really perplexed. We haven't experienced this. Let me try one thing. I'm going to quit this and we're going to come back in because sometimes it's just a bad connection. So join back in, okay? See if we can get a reset on this. I can hear, where's that sound over there? Is it coming from,
Is it the TV volume?
maybe that's something that
And they're
somebody,
bouncing off of
Hang on
each
one
other
second,
and
I
just
got-
a constant echo?
What class does this teacher teach?
Emily is a high school biology teacher.
Okay.
All right, so this might be it because I don't know that we've ever seen the volume up there. So let me go back in.
It could be the speakers.
If I can, the
doing
question comes
feedback
back on,
the
or Dr. White just comes on, but I mean, this is just public input right now. So, I mean, she can like ask the questions. If we don't have the answers, we don't have the answers. We don't need to answer.
Yeah.
Especially where, I mean, this is something that's contractual.
Well, the other thing is these are all high school questions. They're not,
Yeah, this is.
they're not school board questions. So
This is something that should be taken off and with the principal.
all right, Emily, we found the TV volume was up, which may be the problem. I don't know. We found the TV volume was up. It's not it.
Okay. But to Mr. Bork's point about this being a high school question, I personally do not feel that this is a high school centered question
I didn't say it was a
because
high
all
school
three
setting.
districts are working on the same grading system and the same grading competencies.
And I
As
said,
in the elementary school science competencies are the exact same ones that I have. Therefore, I do believe that this is a district and a school board question because when is the school board and the district deciding to train,
We don't train
deciding to
anybody.
train all of the teachers so that the grading is consistent from GMS to LMS to CHS during that contracted time, not during summer where we get extra pay, which is great. We love that. Yay. But during those days that we have signed that contract for, when is the district going to make that consistency happen?
And I think I can answer that. I believe that is why we have the common planning time and the PLCs within the scope of the week with planning time. I think because of COVID, things have gotten put on the back burner, and we've kind of been in survival mode this year. But I think the intention is that we create these common assessments and we apply the vertical alignment so that we have the same common assessments for the competencies, and that is all ongoing work. it's not going to be completed by the end of this year. It's an ongoing process.
But I think to Emily's question, I think, are you specifically referencing how people are assessing or the actual use of Power School?
The actual use of Power School, I would never question my colleague's way of assessing and that judgment.
Okay.
My specific question is, because we have varied ways that these assessments are being put in, because the weighting was not taken into account when it was implemented, and this one is a high school only kind of specific question, at least under my kind of guise, but the weighting wasn't taken into account in the high schools. And so that has changed how we can grade and how we can implement those grades into the competency grading system, which is fantastic. And the high school did find workarounds, which was also fantastic. Once those workarounds were discussed, disseminated, and then continually implemented and presented then to Mary and the rest of the board, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, it was then told to the high school that the board and Mary would get back to us on whether or not these would be adequate ways in which we could continue grading. That has not happened, and that's continuing me to come back to my initial question of, to create this consistency between all three schools, when will we have the professional development provided to us on how exactly Power School should be implemented when we are grading with these competencies?
Okay. I want to.
How to use Power School now. That's great. We've had that training. That's fantastic. But more of the specific implementation.
Okay. There was nothing brought to, I mean, Nate's workaround and the workarounds that had been presented were given the green light to use. There wasn't an approval process for that. So I apologize if somebody's been waiting for me to get back to them on something that I was not made aware needed approval. In terms of the consistency, right now, I can tell you, this is part of my presentation tonight. We do not have agreement within the grading and reporting committee. And until we get that, I won't have an answer. But once we have that, absolutely, it will be rolled out and there will be training provided as to exactly what that needs to look like.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your transparency, Mary. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, everybody.
And Emily, to be clear, that will be available to people on those additional days and at the start of the year.
Yeah.
If we have to take PD time in, the 3 PD days that we have on the calendar for next school year, that's when that training will be provided. But please understand that if it's a radically different way of thinking about grading, that the learning time will be shortened for those who wait until September. So there'll be June opportunities, August opportunities, September mandatory opportunities. But I just want you to think that, depending on how it goes, waiting till September may not be best, but it may be the best for each individual.
Okay, that I also appreciate. I think that many of the teachers have been under the impression that the additional training that is being offered was more towards the July and early August opportunity and not during the May and June schedule, which would then continue to be during contracted days, which is beneficial. And so thank you for clearing up that.
Well, and keep in mind, 2.5 hours of additional team planning time has been provided to teachers. And so again, anybody who chooses to use that contracted time, Mary, are you happy to go help teams work on that?
I have been doing that. I've met with a number of the teams.
So there were teams today that invited Mary to come down and have this conversation.
Team today.
So the science department, you guys know how to find her. If that's an option, that's another thing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of hours between now and the end of the year.
Thank you so much.
Further, there's actually the grading and reporting just met yesterday, but it's an open committee and any teacher is invited and encouraged to participate in the monthly. It's just a 1 hour meeting a month. If
if that's something that you would like to join in on.
Do you have many
Yes,
teachers joining?
thank you. I am,
Yes.
we do get those emails. I am very aware of it. I do, work a little bit extra within the community. So unfortunately my time cannot, be divvied too much. But thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Can I just ask why this is at the school board level? Why it wasn't addressed with you or Bill? Like, this is public input. Is this time could we go through grading and stuff? Like, I don't think that, no offense, this isn't community input. This is something Bill and Mary and Dr. Jetty need to work on. Is this a school board issue?
Well,
You're
For me
implementing?
personally, I thought it was because Mary was here today and it was dealing specifically with the district as a whole and the teachers within the district.
So you're just giving your opinions. That's your public input. Now I get it. Got it.
Thank you.
Get it. Got it.
Patrick?
Thank you. Well, I just want to mention two things. First of all, I've sent emails to our superintendent, to Mike, and to the school board requesting that these meetings be held in a forum that is more public, that would encourage and not discourage public participation. As you can see, this is not the best way to encourage public participation, public discourse in the educational process in the district. And again, I have to look at this as the teachers are in a full-time in-school model. We have been for a while. And as Dr. Jetty has pointed out, and others have pointed out in leadership, we're doing a heck of a job, and we appreciate when you guys recognize that. Okay. But when we're in a full-time in-school model with 20-something kids crammed into our rooms, and then you guys are up here, you have to admit it's, and I used the word sequestered in an email, and Dr. Jetty, I know didn't like that term. He thought it was insulting. It wasn't intended to be insulting. It's just how we perceive it. We're in the classroom with kids in a full-time in-school model, and as Dr. Jetty has pointed out a number of times, we were sort of ahead of the ballgame. I agree with you, and I think we've been able to do a pretty darn good job and not have a lot of in-school spread and community spread. So I think we're a role model in that way. However, when the school board refuses to meet in a more public forum, and you're sequestered up here, it discourages public input. And I want to say that because I think it's important.
We're only here because of cable. That's the
Our
reason.
normal meeting spot.
And that's what
If
we've
we
replied.
could bring this to the high school, I'd meet anywhere. I mean, it's
So-
a dump.
I'll answer it too, because Patrick, I've already answered you on this question when you first asked if we could have them in the gymnasium, and then explained to you why we couldn't. It takes just about all of the cable company and hours of setup time that they can't do it. Every town group has the meetings in this room. The selectmen, the zoning board, the mosquito club, all of them, they're all here.
It's not because we don't want to meet in a public place. It's because that's our cable. Because I would meet anywhere, and I think we all would meet anywhere.
Yeah, we just don't have the capacity to meet somewhere
if
else.
the town changes the guidelines of how many people are in here, we'd be happy to.
Okay, but I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing it's a town ordinance, and then I'm hearing it's a technological issue.
I thought it was
It's both.
As far as I understand,
technological.
we used to have meetings at CHS for years, in the auditorium before that, and the room 228, 128, or whatever it is.
Except their
They took the
equipment right
cable
now
out
is
of
not
there.
capable of doing it.
But I know that. But what I'm saying is, so as you guys know, and I have asked also to make it very transparent, you guys are receiving, the district's receiving a lot of Corona aid relief, okay, from the coronavirus. There's a lot of relief going, and I understand that. A lot of it's going to the HVAC upgrades and things like that, and I get it, and relief to taxpayers. We understand that. But what I've asked for is one transparent document that community members can go to and see exactly where those expenditures are going. And why can't some of those expenditures be allocated towards technology so that you can hold school board meetings in a public forum that encourages public participation? After all, we're community of learners. And it just seems like we're discouraging, even with all due respect, Brian and Liz, both of you right away were like, this shouldn't be taken up with the school board. This shouldn't be taken up with the school board. Well, where do we publicly participate in the educational process? It seems like it's being discouraged. And
I don't think
no, the
that's
question
true.
is-
I was talking about why it didn't go to Mary and then to because my time's just as valuable as everybody else's. I'm tired. And I don't understand why it came all the way to us. Because they seem to think we're in charge of Power School. We're not. We follow the direction of the person we hired to do that. And this is all we have for cable. And I totally get where you're coming from.
And if I can just say one thing, this is my 4th year in district. Okay. We've met here for a while. We met in the room at CHS for the first couple of years I was here. There was always plenty of empty chairs. So I think as a result of the pandemic, here we are with our masks here, and we're doing our best to protect ourselves. This is our meeting place. And even when we were able to have people here, nobody came. So we encourage participation. We encourage coming on. But where is everybody?
8, 9, 10.
Well, I mean,
I'll
if you
just be completely honest.
Because they're remote.
Corey,
I
if I
think
may
it's
just
actually easier.
respond, because unless you meant that rhetorically, you asked me a
I know,
specific question. So the one thing I'll say is that Emily Post was just here, and technically that was flawed, that whole session, and it just doesn't. The feeling is that community input is being discouraged, and that's
being
all.
discouraged by the community, Patrick?
Say that again.
You're saying it's being
You know
discouraged
what,
by the community?
guys, this has gone beyond community input at this point, and we're having a debate. Patrick, did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, sorry. One other quick thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. The other thing I would just like to jump on we are a district-wide competency-based system. And the grading task force, as Mary said, has not come to an agreement on whether, and and the major discussion seems to be around whether or not competency-based and a points-based system are compatible. It had been for years in the district. Had been for years. Other districts are using Power School and points-based, and they're compatible. So whatever, our Power School doesn't use, I don't know if we have a cheaper version. We can't use points in our Power School. That's what we've been told. So, and the other thing is, so we rolled out a new grading system that requires an overhaul of curriculum this fall. And now we're talking about a year into it and more next fall, or this summer, or whatever, having PD on a grading system that has already impacted students' achievement and learning for over an entire year. If I did that in my classroom, I'll tell you what, I would be in a lot of trouble. Mike or Mary or Bill would be calling me down to their office.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. In the interest of time, we're going to move on. Was there any correspondence, Brian?
There was one. Carrie Douglas had reached out to us. Her concern was after viewing our last meeting and our discussion with volunteers, allowing them in, and they had to be vaccinated, that she suggested that we seek legal counsel, which we had. And legal counsel advised us that we do have the right to require that the volunteer that wants to come into our building must show proof of vaccination for the safety of the students, teachers, and staff, and the rest of the.
Thank you. I know there was a great deal about that issue on debate on Facebook as well. All right, let's move on to superintendent comments.
Bear with me. I just wanted to
Sure.
shut that feed off. Okay, so the first comment, and I think the board all has a link to the general assurances. So the general assurances are a federal document that I have to sign each year, just indicating that the school district will be in compliance with, and probably if we stacked up all the federal rules, it would be a pile that high. It's a lot of stuff that's in here. The commissioner a few years ago started to require that no longer was it just signed by the superintendent, but wanted the board chair to also countersign. So Tina and I are being asked to initial each page of these documents and then to sign the document. And so you have had a copy of that. I think they're fairly similar to what I didn't do a page by page comparison because there's a lot in here, but this is an annual document. So I wanted to see if the board had any questions or concerns about that doc, because otherwise, Tina and I will need to sign them and get them submitted, but they're not due until June. So we don't even have to take action tonight. Time is on our side. So we can, take a little bit of time if people want to look deeper into it, or if you're ready to move ahead, we can do that too.
I'm fine.
Any Questions or
I reviewed it. It seems straightforward. I was comfortable with it.
Tara, any adjustments you want to make?
Not on this, thank you. You just
All right,
wait.
We'll just sit here and, all right. So Tina and I, at the end of the meeting, will initial and sign and get it all ready so that
Thanks for looking that over, everyone.
I drop these off in Concord. So they have the hand signed copy, and then there's more assurances to come later. These are general assurances, and there's program assurances, and there's a lot of assurances we make on these grants.
A lot of
I
paperwork.
will note too that it's a really, I mean, it's always an important document, but the fact that the amount of federal funding that we are receiving in the next couple of years is going to make us eligible for federal compliance audit. So it's just really important that we have all these ducks in a row.
Sounds good. All right, budget committee calendar.
Yeah, so we had a meeting with, my gosh, it was Andrew Cutter and JD Sun, and it was Brian, Tina, Corey, and I who met. And we really were reviewing the budget development process for the next year. And we, based on that, Chairman Cutter was able to put together a draft calendar that I think you have a link to, right? And he will be bringing that forward to the budget committee for approval tomorrow night. So a couple of things that are a little bit different, but I want to explain what they mean. Basically, on November 2nd, we have agreed to deliver a draft school budget on paper to the budget committee. So we will turn over, this is what we have put together. It'll be the same time that the board members will have access to it. So what that means is that on November 4th and 9th, which is a Thursday, Tuesday, we will do, again, the joint budget school session. That's where all the presentations will be made. And at that point, everybody will be able to follow along from the same paper. Now, we know the board is going to take some action on it, and you're going to make some adjustments to it. But the budget committee can follow along on that. And the other thing to keep in mind there is that we're not going to have the principals and directors represent to the budget committee because they will have heard all the presentations. And what Chairman Cutter agreed to is that when we get to the school budget review on November the 18th, that we could have, like, Mary could be available if there's a question for Mary, and I could text Mary and she could join us remotely. So we want to utilize all the tools that we've learned as part of this process so that instead of having a principal who's been working from 6 in the morning, waiting until maybe 9 o'clock at night to have a question asked, we could just have them pop it on the screen through WebEx, answer the questions directly from home, and then get back to business. So I really think it's a good spot. I think it's going to meet our needs in terms of budget development, and I think it will meet the budget committee's needs. The other thing is because the meetings will be recorded, they don't have to watch them live and in person, right? So they can always watch the recording of the meeting prior to their meeting so that they can see what the presentations consisted of. We did plead for an earlier start time if possible, just so that we're not waiting until 7 at night. I know the committee has some restrictions, but once or twice, if they can just start earlier during the crunch season, because November is a crazy month, and that would mean a lot in terms of getting an early start on it. And the rest of the process is laid out in terms of warrant voting and so forth. So let me just pause there and see if anybody else has questions for us.
I mentioned on the phone call, and you just, on November 2nd, the budget committee will be receiving a copy of the budget. When will the school board get it?
Same time.
Thanks.
You
Good question.
need it?
Only 2 days before we meet?
Yeah, I would like it a little bit
That's
earlier.
why I was concerned as far as that November 2nd date that was aggressive. And the fact they're going to be receiving at the same time as we are.
I think
We should at least have the
I think we
opportunity.
can bump up the school board.
Well, here's the thing. We're giving the paper copies to them on that date. So if you'll have electronic access earlier. If you want a paper copy, we can run it off. But I think most, what do you want it on paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
We
put
should do it
it
like
When we
October
start receiving
30th
like
or something,
departments
that
like
would be great.
earlier
Yeah, we
electronically.
can do that. Absolutely.
Just, I don't want to receive it, the same day they receive it. Plus it's only 2 days before we meet.
Yeah,
Brian, I'm just looking. I mean,
Weekend.
the
I mean, we
Friday
usually-
before the 29th, we can get it to
that
you.
would be great.
Is that a
And
Friday?
me and Mike
Yeah, that
usually,
would be way
I
better
need a
for
week.
me.
I need weekends.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, that's doable.
we usually start meeting early, first couple weeks of October. and paring things down. So I think we'll definitely have time to
Even
get
if
it.
you start sending us, preliminary
Yep.
on different departments, at least that's helpful. We can start at least like
Absolutely.
getting a part of the body of it.
Yep.
That was my
fair.
only concern.
So we'll wait to see what the budget committee does tomorrow, but that's where the timeline sits right now. And I think it's tighter and a more efficient process and better use of the tech tools that we've learned.
I agree.
All right, the other thing is the school board meeting calendar. So we updated that. I'm hoping this is the last time that we've updated, as long as that budget committee calendar gets adopted. So we've tried to reflect that. And again, if you look at November, it's a crazy maker month between 2 board meetings, 2 budget meetings, and then our first budget meeting with the budget committee, and then all the vacation days. It's really a very, very busy month.
Do you, I'll make a motion to approve the school board calendar for 21-22.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
But I'm an aye.
Okay. That
Michelle,
motion-
could you supply us with a nice colored one like that for the board members?
Absolutely.
It's really nice to look at and
Yeah.
easy, a nice
Do you want
snapshot
it
of
digitally or in paper? Or both?
both.
Okay.
Well, I have it visually.
No problem.
Paper.
Well,
We'll print it off for you.
Thank you.
That's-
I mean,
do you want me to reflect October 29th as when we're delivering to the
We may
board?
as,
That'd be great.
may as well put it on there, because then we know what we're
I'm
functioning.
just gonna circle that so I remember.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
All right, volunteers?
Well, just the question on volunteer consistency, so I wanted to report back. There are volunteers beginning into the schools. I've met with the principals. I've explained the need to be consistent. To Brian's point about the attorney, Michelle's ready that if there were a member of the community who is unable to be vaccinated due to a medical condition, we would not discriminate against that person. We would accommodate them through some other volunteer opportunity that would minimize or eliminate contact. So, I think we're in a good spot. I think we've got pieces figured out with it. But if you hear of a concern or know of a concern, let us know. Because honestly, once we open it up, the schools get rolling and we're just not aware of the piece.
I've
The
already
principals are aware.
updated The files on the
Yeah.
web and with the presentation, the orientation and
Just for
everything.
contract
Is this
tracing
for the
reasons.
fall? This isn't
That's
for
a
this, for the rest 30-something days. This is for the fall, right? We're not opening the floodgates tomorrow.
We've opened the
Pretty
floodgates.
open.
We've allowed volunteers to come in, but on a very, limited basis.
No, limited basis, okay.
Right.
And that's determined by the admins in each building, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I made the point, really examine each position and
Yeah.
think about it from a contact tracing angle, because, if you're looking back in a 48-hour window and you've got like one team here this day and another team here another day, you've really increased. And don't think of it as just notifying them. If one of them comes positive, the contacts they've had in the trigger, there's a lot
I'm going to
there.
keep an updated spreadsheet
Yeah.
as well, so I hope that the schools, I actually have done soft background checks on volunteers throughout the year, but they haven't
Mhm.
been in the schools, so I haven't seen anything come across my desk yet or my emails, so
Okay.
I don't know.
School board comments? Nothing?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's see, the April 27th, April 7th, 2021 minutes from our last meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the public minutes from April 7th. Why do I keep saying 27th? 2021.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. And that brings us to curriculum director's report.
Wonderful. Good evening. I'm actually going to go right off of the PowerPoint only because it's just an expansion on my actual written report. So I just wanted to take some time tonight and give you guys an update. I mean, I'm wrapping up my 3rd year, and a year and a third of it has been in COVID, but we have made quite a bit of progress, and I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the progress, some of our next steps, and talk a little bit probably about some of the obstacles that we've hit along the way. So I broke it down by some of the major strands, curriculum revision being the first. We know that we completed our math revision K through 12. We also completed a revision of our ICT Pathways program as part of the computer science, but that was kind of an entity in and of itself. So those have been done and they're moving into the next stages. Since the start of the last school year, we have begun significant work on ELA, social studies, PE and health, FACS, and continued to do some work on our computer science and tech. When I say that we're not started, that's not a true statement, and that we have done a lot of the preliminary legwork with these other subject areas. We just have not started drafting UBD documents yet. So really looking ahead, that's science, art, music, Spanish, and business. Science, they're doing a lot of legwork right now on their own because they want to get that done. So we're not where I would like to be, but we are in a good place considering some of the obstacles that we've had. Next. So looking ahead, it is my goal, because of where we are, to complete ELA and social studies next year. I also believe that we can complete FACS in the PE health across the district, only because of some individual work. The two FACS teachers have taken a lot on themselves, and Shannon Sapon has really taken charge of the PE health and is bringing that work down to work with the younger grades, with Melissa and with Dan. And then it would be my goal to get science, art, music, and Spanish done the following year. That's art. I mean, art and music are pretty hand in hand in terms of the standards and things of that nature. So, and they're also, a lot of their setup is already there. So that's where I'm looking. And then that would just leave us with business, I believe, is the only one that's missing.
Great.
So, and throughout the whole thing, we will continue working on assessment building, which is a big topic that I'll talk about as we move through. Next slide. Just to some of the pieces that are going to be coming before the board before the end of the year. We do have draft social studies competencies and reading and writing competencies and FACS competencies that need to go through PERC, and they're just a little delayed. I was hoping to bring them tonight, but with me getting sick, I had to cancel our PERC meeting. But those will be coming through before the end of the year with the goal of being able to use those competencies. Those are ones that really have come up as causing some stress, especially at the elementary level, in trying to report because of the wording and the competencies. So that streamlining the social studies and reading and writing competencies should really help that process. The other things that are going to be coming through, we are investigating benchmarking software to replace our use of NEWA and Ames Web. And we are also updating some of our text resources. So those will be coming through in the very near future.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So grading and reporting, clearly this is a big topic. It causes me a lot of anxiety right now. Just to talk a little bit about where we are and what we've been doing. Our work study practices, those have been revised, approved. They have created rubrics, and we're working right now on how to give them more teeth. I know that's been a common concern at all three levels, but definitely is something we are working on. We are actually going to have more conversation. We had some conversation about it yesterday at grading and reporting, and we'll have it again tomorrow at admin. The competency reporting with the shift to Power School, we updated that. We are reporting on competencies in all three buildings. The comfort level and the depth of it varies as this is the first year we've done this at the elementary and the middle school, but they really seem to be getting the hang of it.
Is that because they haven't done it before, really?
Yes.
To the depth that the high school is
Correct.
doing it?
They
Because
have-
the high school's been in a group for years and years and years. And I just am wondering why they're having a hard time with, I'll ask my questions at the end. Go ahead. Do you want me to ask my questions now?
You know what? Let me get through this slide
Okay.
because I think it'll connects right to the
Perfect.
last piece. So I think that is a big step for us. When I came on board, we were reporting on competencies at the high school, but not at the middle school and not at the elementary school. So now we are, with the implementation of Power School, reporting out on competencies in all 3 buildings. Our reassessment procedures, we've done a lot of work in grading and reporting on we were looking to just standardize them, but through the process have realized that we have some differing philosophies. So we've kind of dug into the why of it. I don't think that my goal was to have it drafted by the end of the year into the board before school ended. I do not think we will get there, but I think by early fall, we should have something drafted to the board. We've made some progress on that. We've kind of had to put that on the back burner right now because of the next, which is our competency-based grading practices. This has been a huge conversation all year. We know that. What it boils down to, and we heard it tonight, is the idea of the weighted points, which it flies in the face of the philosophy of competency grading. So it's not an option. I won't back down on that. It's not an option to do weighted points in our grading system. There's other ways that we can do it so that it makes it that the teachers are comfortable with it. And those were the opportunities that we brought forth to grading and reporting to discuss yesterday. The conversation did not go very far. I'll be completely honest. We are stuck on, if I don't give a grade for every single little assignment, kids aren't going to do the work. And that's a struggle.
That's what happened in our school last year. Same exact conversation.
It's, I'm trying to take a step back and have us continue the conversations around, well, does it, I even asked in the meeting, if the kid's not doing the work, how are they doing on the assessments?
Right.
Because the reality is, if they're doing well on the assessments, then did they need to do that work? In a competency system? Probably not.
Right.
So there's a lot of discussion and a lot of debate right now.
So in my experience as a parent, I have seen many teachers who are doing it that way.
Yes.
They're not assigning a
Yep.
grade to every
Yes,
assignment.
I should clarify that.
Okay.
That it's not the common practice, but this is,
Okay.
it's the obstacle that we have hit because it's the loudest
The
right now.
philosophy.
I'll be honest, it's the loudest. I don't think it's the most common practice, but it's the loudest practice. And
I think in all my kids' classes, they have been assigning grades to the formatives. You're saying that they don't?
Some of them I haven't seen that.
so some teachers, it's kind of split in terms of whether or
Right.
not they enter the formatives
Right.
into Power School.
Right.
The formatives that are entered and graded do not count towards the
It's
calculation.
marked excluded
Yes.
Right.
on a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do still have people that are afraid to let go of some of that. Some of those formative things have just been tagged summative. And it dilutes that competency score when we're giving credit for homework assignments and things that are not actually looking at the competency. And that's going into a competency score. It's not reflective of the student's actual level of proficiency. And that's my biggest struggle with.
That's why they want to weight things. So your homework assignment's 2 points, but your test is 40 points.
Right. Right. So ultimately, that's where we're at. Still working to try and make progress on it. We're gonna, like I said, we didn't get very far at our meeting on Tuesday. I asked the building reps to take the information and the options that were presented to them and take it back to their buildings, to take it back to their teams and get feedback. I did also sit with Andrea and say, is there a way around it? Is there a way to do something different that we're not looking at? And the reality is there's no way to do it without compromising the validity of the competencies.
And how are they being graded this year? That they're not compromised? Because I see grades all over the place.
Well,
The workarounds, I think that's what they call it.
They call it a workaround, but the reality is it's what is going into the grade book. If what's going in are true competency-based summatives or competency, assignments that are using competency rubrics and things of that nature, then it will automatically feed into that score appropriately. It's the other things that are being included as summatives that are not. And there's work to be done there. I mean, that's, when we look ahead to writing assessments, we've done a lot of training on making this shift. And I've had a leadership team, teachers and admin at a 3-month workshop that really focused on how do we lead that change. And ultimately we have to find our entry point, and I think our entry point is with assessment. I think we have teachers that understand competency assessment. We have some that understand it better than others, but they can see that in as we develop that more and more. I think the whole points and weighting should wash out, but it's just we're not there.
So is that, I'm referring back to the public, the community input earlier, is that the kind of the training that
they want a decision on, they want to be told, yes, we can use weighted points and this is how it needs to be entered, or this is how everybody in the district is going to enter grades.
For consistency, I totally get that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. That was actually what was they were given that this fall. But it wasn't until they realized that they weren't weighted, that we weren't weighting points, that it became an issue. And that's when everybody, we've come up with some workarounds and things that make it very inconsistent.
Thank you.
Next, Mike.
Sorry, we have no power at my house.
Competency assessments and rubrics. These next two are pretty quick. So we've offered some competency assessment training. We did it in Live to Learn 2019. And we also I did sessions last spring during those open PD sessions around what are competency assessments? What do they look like? I've also done them in smaller groups of teams and grade levels, but just thinking big picture. Currently, Campbell is working on summative competency assessments to be used minimally for competency recovery this spring. That's how they're going to be implemented is still up in the air a little bit. But
they have to do all their formatives before they can get a summative competency assessment.
That's another area.
Okay, sorry.
Disagreement.
Because why go to school if you don't have to do the practice? Just hang out slide until the end of the year and get a 55 and then go to summer school and just do a couple of summative things.
Because that's not how it works
I work
anymore.
What?
We don't do summer school. We don't do.
Well, the competency assessment then. No, I'm just saying, I'm just the devil's advocate because I work in middle school and I spend a lot of time with high school kids and I know how their brains work.
If you can prove proficiency and master the summative, do you need that practice?
Then why go to school?
I mean, philosophically,
Right.
a competency system is not based on seat time. It's based on your level of proficiency.
And when you
For-
meet that
and mastery
standard,
of
you
those
should be
skills.
able to move ahead.
So if you don't come to school and you come in on test day and you are demonstrating proficiency, technically, I mean, you're demonstrating that you are competent.
And if you fail that test, you could just do it at the end of the year and demonstrate you're confident?
No, because if you're failing those tests, you don't fall into the
All right.
the ability to there is still that cap of what grades you can get to do recovery and what you need to just retake the class. So, and if you're not passing those summatives, then that's
Well, and I've seen teachers kind of link the formatives to the summative.
Yeah.
If you didn't do the formatives, you have to do them before you can retake
you
the
can.
summative.
and
That's what I said. So if you don't do the formatives, you just take the summative, it doesn't matter because formatives don't count.
I've seen systems where the formatives have very minimal impact, like maybe a fraction of a grade. But the weight is on the summative. And
Right.
a student who passes the summative, who cares that they did the formatives?
Right.
They probably did because that's why they passed the summative.
Right.
Right.
But if they fail the summative and they want to retake
they
an
have to
opportunity to
do.
recover,
And
Right.
Oh, that
first
was
thing
my
I'm doing as a
question.
teacher is saying, show me your body of
we're
work.
talking retakes versus competency.
Oh, well, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. We have all different.
Yeah. That is that's part of our reassessment plan that we've been looking at. And that is a pretty common.
And I would think teachers would agree with that part of it. Because you want to hold the students accountable.
And what it teaches the student is it's just easier to do those as you go along.
As you go.
Yeah.
They weren't random assignments for busy work. They should have
Right.
been linked. I mean, really, all those mini formatives should be mini competency.
They're like little quizzes leading up to the big test. That's how I explain them.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
So the last piece is this is going to be a huge part of our Live to Learn Academy this summer is the idea of the competency assessment writing as well as the rubric writing. Which brings me to our last piece, professional learning. I just wanted to focus on looking ahead. So a lot of the training and conversation that we've had this year has all come back to the idea of the data-driven PLCs. We've had a lot of conversation around that, which is one of those things that we kind of lost track of due to COVID. We had made some significant progress on that at the start of last year. We had our PLCs up and running. We had our data teams up and running, and making some headway. And then when we went remote, those and that could not be a priority this year. We had too many other things that we were just trying to stay afloat with. So that really is we're going to refocus on that for next year. Like I said, I did talk to Jody today, and they have prioritized that common PLC time for the core areas at the high school as well. We know we have it with the teams at the elementary and the middle school, but it has also been reprioritized at the high school.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So I'll leave it there. We really, through the professional learning committee, we really have been having a lot of conversation and are working to expand our staff-led professional learning opportunities. Case in point, at our last PD day, most of these sessions were run by teachers. And that has been something that I really want to prioritize, because the more we can empower our teachers to train one another, the better off we are. So that is a focus. I skipped right over Live to Learn, but we're also going to begin working and training around the MTSSB, the multi-tiered systems of support and behavior. So that has been something that has been a big push with our resiliency task force. So, and then Live to Learn. This really is where we tend to get our most traction with PD. Sad that we really weren't able to do it last summer, but excited to have it up and going. I did some preliminary surveying. I had about 35 staff members that responded to the initial survey of this is what I'd like to see. So that's positive. So we are looking to expand it into 2 separate weeks. And on the next slide, you'll see this is just a draft, and I made sure to put that nice and big in red, but just some ideas of, even the dates are not solidified right now. I have to also look at funding to see if I can do 7 days or if I have to cut the first week to 3. But we're looking at using 4 days on that last week of June, right after school gets out, and then doing 3 days in August. The goal is to keep the August dates, have some Power School boot camp and some more tech focus there, specifically around Power School, but also still have the opportunity to come in and do competency assessment writing, stage 1 writing, things of that nature. Really, my goal in that week in June is to stagger it so that there is the opportunity to work on assessments, rubrics, and stage 1 for those people that are there that's writing the UBDs. And then my goal is to be able to have the 24th really be a kind of make and take day where people that have been working on assessments, we can do some workshopping, and the people that have been doing some training on the different tech tools can do like a make and take day. So trying to put a lot of variety in there. And again, this is just preliminary and there's still a lot of things that need to be added in, but
So the teachers choose a week at a time or day by day, like they can see what's
they
on
can
there
they can
and
go
say,
day
"I
by
saw
day.
one day."
Yeah, when we did it 2 years ago, we really let people sign up. They could come in just for one section of a day. And it's paid, we pay it basically by the amount of time that they're there. It's hourly. And it was really successful. We had 45 staff members, I think, during the course of that 5-day week do multiple sessions. And most people came for 3 or 4 days at least. So
Is the hope, Mary, that they will then go back to their teams and kind of share the information and share what they've learned?
that's the goal. And some, I can tell you from our first, like our middle school ELA teachers, that entire team came for most of that week.
Great.
So they worked together.
Yeah.
5, 6, and 8 at the time. I know it was when Kim was getting ready to retire. So 7th grade is our gap there. But they came together and they did that work as a middle school group. The high school has been doing a lot of the writing. They were doing it in their PLC group last year. They have expressed wanting to come in and wrap up that work together. So my goal is that I really want to encourage groups to take time and work in their teams or work with any peers that
Vertically.
are going to be there to support. Again, it's voluntary. It is a paid opportunity, but the feedback that we got from the first one was so fantastic that I'm excited that we're going to be able to do it again, and I look forward to it.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, I like seeing so many choices, so that faculty can take what pertains to them, and they're not sitting and getting the same thing district wide and sitting there going, "This, I'm never going to use this."
Right.
So I think
Right.
that's key. It's
I think one of the things that shows our growth too, you'll notice that other than Google certification, we're not running Google sessions. There really wasn't a whole lot of need. What we've identified is there is still some inconsistent application really within our paras. We have a lot of paras that have, some things are good with and others they have questions on, but our goal is the PD committee really wanted to offer the Google certification. So that way we would have more in-house Google experts as well.
Do we have a license for WeVideo?
Yes.
Then why am I paying $59 a year for it? I just saw my credit card bill for a Spanish video one of my kids made. So we have something through the district. I swear to God, I just saw it in my credit card thing.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
We have WeVideo. We also have Screencastify
I know.
Ed Puzzle, all of which do video recording.
I just prefer to pay for it.
Oh, that's good. That's fantastic.
Way to take it for the team.
Yeah, take
I'm
one.
like, I'm gonna start,
Thank
sending.
you, Mary.
I
Any
need these
questions?
shoes for.
Any other questions for Mary?
No, I think it's fantastic. Just as a new board member, I didn't even realize the Live to Learn was something that you did. So I think it's great that it's this optional
Yeah.
PD time and
Mhm.
on very relevant topics. So
Are you able to go to the team's PLC meetings to talk about the Power School and everything?
Can I? I absolutely can.
Do you need to be invited?
You-
Okay.
I mean,
You don't need to.
I don't
be,
need
but-
to,
Yeah.
but that has been because
I'm sure you're busy.
the teams, the meetings, the grade level meetings, those are all building based.
Okay.
So I've put it out there that I will come to any team, and I have. I mean,
Because that's why I thought, why did it come all the way to us when they have access to you all day? That I didn't mean to get smart with Patrick, but you know what I mean? Like
it's a
that
good
seems like-
question. And here's the other thing. I mean, there is a process that I'm right there in that building. Like you have a question. I don't bite.
Because it seems like they're open to. Okay.
No, but it's.
Yeah.
I think that there's inconsistent use of me in that capacity.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you mind sticking around?
I'm here.
Thank you. All right. Business administrators report.
All right, I provided my report. I do want to ask one thing. This time, the report that was linked in the school board agenda, I included some notes on it. Did people
was
find that helpful?
Yes.
So I will continue to do that as I put the report out, just to explain some
Well,
of the.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, yes.
I know, and I had seen comments from Tara as well,
Okay.
and questions, but that could be a little bit easier along the way. As I see those questions come in, I can answer them right away. Just to give some updates on some of the things that have been going on with our projects, in terms of the energy efficiency and the renovation type project that's going on down at LMS. We are approaching signing the official contracts with the construction manager and the architect, which is North Branch Construction and Windy Hill Associates. Windy Hill, you know better as David Ely. I reopened the capital project fund. So to make it easier to track all the projects, everything that's going on at once, I'll be able to do more consistent reporting. It'll be easier to pull that information when we need it. North Branch did provide an initial budget. We are working our way towards a guaranteed maximum price for the first phase. So the contract's not being signed at this point isn't holding them back from doing work. They've been in the building a couple times already, and ordering is going to be started on things such as the windows and the roofing and all those types of things. With the canopy, we'll be reviewing the punch list with Jeff Kelly from Solid Roots Construction tomorrow morning, to see what things need to be finished there, such things as finishing off where the flagpole is, landscaping, and a couple other items that just need to be finished up. I've notified Schiavi. I know this will make Brian very happy, and they'll be ready as of July 1st.
We all should be there.
They'll be ready, but we're working with Dave Ross to figure out exactly what things need to be done. Removal of the propane tanks, the fencing, the ramps, electrical disconnects, getting Jason involved, what tech things are in there that need to be recovered before those leave the property.
And you mentioned the propane tank, and with the problems we've had with propane, can we make sure we don't fill that right before they take it out of there?
We will make sure that whatever's left in there, we will either have AmeriGas siphon it out and move it to another.
They won't do it.
They won't do it? All right, then we'll have
That's what I'm
to.
saying. You want to run that down as low as possible.
Okay,
Have a
and we'll
big,
make
big
sure that's
barbecue.
on the checklist to get done before those leave. I provided the financial reports, just to give an idea where we are in terms of fund balance. Things are looking to be healthy. In terms of expenditures, we've reached the time of year where we get to emergency expenditures. If you budgeted for something and you haven't purchased it by April of the school year, then, you know, the chances are you're not going to need it at this point. We have a new budget opening up July 1st, and we can start going towards that. So everything is under a little bit of more heightened scrutiny. We always do look through things, but we reach a level of more scrutiny as we reach the end of the year. With all that said, if no one has any questions directly on any of these. Oh, one thing I do want to mention actually while it's here. In terms of the capital project, when it comes to funding, the ESSER 2 funds, I did attend a phone call where they talked about what types of things will be allowable uses for this. And it brings in a lot, it's pretty exciting because it brings into the impact of COVID-19 and the things you need to do to your buildings. So you can justify replacing the roof. You can justify doing all the things you need to upgrade that building so that the ventilation is working right and the roof supports the equipment you need to put up there to make sure it happens. So I provided, they did ask for a preliminary, do you have any construction projects going on? There was a document that DOE asked for. I've provided that to them with the wording that they actually specified. If you word it in this particular way and you do the same thing in your grant, you know, you'll get the approval to request a reimbursement. So there is a significant amount of money in the grants that will help to offset, but we will have to meet Mike, Mary, Devin, and myself to go through what are some of the other things we need before we earmark a lot of that grant funding towards the project. We want to make sure that we get the things done that are necessary for students, for our staff, and get those things done first before we mark all this money to go towards this project. With that said, Lauren Crowley is with us tonight to do a presentation and update on food services.
Can I ask a couple questions before you?
Absolutely,
Yeah, I have a
absolutely.
question.
The first, and I asked this before, now that spring is here and it's all clean up and we're talking about the canopy job.
Yep.
When is that marquee sign, the old one, leaving the circle?
So we have one thing going on. We have reached out to Tom to see, because he said that the Historical Society did have interest in the sign.
Okay.
However, it is very heavy. If they want it, it would probably be something that we would have to ask Solid Roots to maybe deliver to them. But we need to determine if they want it, and if they're going to take it. I'll follow up with Tom again tomorrow on that.
That's been ongoing since fall, and we're at the point that if it doesn't disappear, it's
Put it
going
inside
to
the-
disappear.
Well, basically, Solid Roots has contacted us and been like, "What are we doing with this thing? Is it staying or going?"
So tomorrow is our punch list meeting, and the sign is on there, and there'll be a last look. Either the sign gets gone by this date, or you guys need to get
Historical
it.
Society wants it. I'm sure they don't want the columns. They probably just want the sign. It's plastic.
We're actually unsure what they want. So, you know, do they want to set it up and use it as a sign at the Historical Society building is a question, or are they looking for the historical aspects of it? I'm really not clear what aspect of the sign they want. So, but we just need to decide because it can't sit out on the lawn like
I
that.
think it's, like you said, it's been going on for long enough. So the other question I have, and it's geared towards one of Patrick's comments, and I'm pretty sure you answered it last week when we were talking about grants that we received as far as COVID money, and that there's a large one we're waiting for. But he's talking like there's thousands upon thousands of dollars that's pouring in. In my understanding, the monies we've already received, we've already spent.
Well, the ones
So
we
we do
have
it first quarter.
received, we've already spent. ESSER 2 just went live
Just
on the
came
grant
in.
management system within the past month, I believe. And there is the CARES 3 that is expected to come as
Right,
well.
but not here.
Not here yet. We don't even know exact amounts. We have estimates that have been shared with us, but there is a significant pool of money. But what we've received so far has been spent
Correct. On,
on the ventilation project
so items related to COVID.
Absolutely.
to prevent COVID.
to prevent COVID, to help the ventilation, and we got 250.
So we spent money to fix the ventilation rather than having a meeting at a different location.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I do agree with one of Patrick's points, which was, can we see a breakdown of what funds we have received, what we anticipate receiving,
I have,
and how, the allocations for those funds.
we have shared that on
I asked about that a
occasions-
couple weeks ago, I think.
on occasions
Yeah.
through the
Months ago,
facilities
Yeah.
planning committee.
Yeah.
I can absolutely provide that to the members of the board. It has been in my reports
Yep.
before, so
I know
they are
we've seen
public
it. I just want to
documents.
make sure it's accessible, to our taxpayers. and to the
Absolutely.
school community.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for Corey, or did you have? Oh, you're having.
We
a
have
Never
Lauren here
mind.
to give some updates on food service, and
Okay.
we can work through that.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, everybody.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, Lauren.
hear you.
Hang on one
Can't hear
second.
you. Hold
It
on.
might be me.
Turn it up, turn it down.
I figured out just help me the next time. This is back to Emily's point.
Mm.
She was watching
Mm,
LCTV,
that's what I thought was
and
happening.
that was the feedback loop. So
Oh,
she
I
had to
see.
turn off her TV.
Oh, it's like calling the radio station.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. That's why there was that delay of 4 seconds, and it dawned on me when we had a conversation that she heard when she wasn't here. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
that's what it
Right.
was.
Right.
All right.
I have you
So
guys
Lauren,
on TV as well,
can
actually.
you
Turn
say
off the
something?
TV.
What?
I could barely.
Say something, Lauren.
Hi.
Yeah, hang on.
We need higher volume.
Cranking up. I'm trying my best.
Here we go.
No worries.
There we go.
All right. How's that?
What?
We
Perfect.
can hear you,
Go
Lauren.
ahead.
Fantastic.
Do we want to have
So
Lauren?
before I jump into the presentation and start with kind of everything, I just want to say publicly a big thank you to the school board, because last week, our Campbell High School kitchen staff all ended up quarantined, and every board member stepped up, volunteered some of their time. They were, bringing in lunches. Brian was like on sandwich duty all day Wednesday. It was on.
Oh, yeah, I was doing my chicken.
Jumped in, and this is it's not a thing school boards do. It's really not, and a lot of my colleagues are really jealous that I have a school board that will come and, what do you need? We got, we'll help. And Mary was down there as well. There was some SAU people that came and helped, and I'm very, very grateful for you all to come in and dedicate some time to help us out. And even those who couldn't be there, to, at least reach out and said, if I could be there, I would be there. And it's just as appreciated as everyone who showed up. So a huge thank you right off the bat to all of you, and kudos for stepping up and joining the crazy food service world for this short time.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. So we'll just jump into it, guys. Okay. Should I share this? I don't know.
You know what? I'm going to present it, Lauren, so I have it up on the screen. So you can just plug ahead.
There we go. All right, so just to go through some of the highlights of this presentation, we are starting with
Down.
great news that the USDA announced yesterday that the federally funded meals has been extended through June 2022. So all next year, students will be able to receive free breakfast and lunch with no cost to the families. And again, all that reimbursement comes back to the district as a free student. So it's great news for our kids. It's great news for our families that maybe are struggling to make ends meet.
Howard, you must be
And
saving
it's
some
really
grace.
great for,
Oh, my
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
let's see, the implementation of breakfast as well. We, as everyone knows, we have implemented breakfast at middle school and at Griffin. About mid-December is when this took place, and it has grown. I mean, Griffin is like killing everybody. They're nailing it. Last March they did, or this past March, excuse me, they did 1,889 breakfasts. That's huge.
Is that refundable too?
It is, like, that's insane.
And Lauren, that's reimbursable also.
Schools, is getting there as well. They're
Here, I
doing,
muted her.
everything they can do. Middle school is hard age as well, and people have their routines down, so to implement it midway through years is difficult.
I'll let you know.
Their highest month was also March, and they served 465 breakfasts. The promotion of the program, that's kind of where I got the idea for Breakfast Wars. From some of you that may or may not know, I am a camp employee as well.
My sister worked at a camp and they had color wars where every cabin it was a boys camp and a girls camp, so they all had these big like events pitting everyone against each other, and that's where I kind of came up with the breakfast wars idea, and that they could win the coveted golden fruit basket, which I stole from my camp, and tried to make it kind of a friendly competition. And Griffin took it and ran with it. But in other good news as well, the high school is, in February they served 436 more reimbursable breakfasts than they did the February prior. And that's a huge win. And that's all because of the free meals that they have to take the fruit, which I know a lot of kids are not exactly thrilled with, but it helps us so much in our program. And I think now they're in the habit of taking that fruit and getting that complete breakfast every single day. And it'll just continue on into years to come. And it's going to be a lot less like harping on us from the lunch staff going, make sure you take a fruit or a vegetable. So that's really, really great. And that's gone really well. In total, from December 17th to today, and remember, we still have 2 more days in April. We have, just from middle school and Griffin alone, we have added 6,832 breakfast meals to our monthly reimbursement. And that equates to roughly about $12,000-ish that the district would not have had if we didn't put breakfast in those 2 schools. So I just think that's an awesome piece of information. I'm really, really psyched about it. And it's going really well. I think it's just going to keep growing, and that's what we want, is we want kids to be in and eating and happy and fed.
Lauren,
lunches, they've actually dropped off and they're quite steady now. Every school averages about 5 to 10 meals, like, a breakfast and a lunch, like per kiddo. The high school steadily has 4 families that consistently pick up every single day. The middle school has like 1 or 2, and Griffin again averages between 5 and 10. So it's really the same, families coming in all the time, ordering from us and taking it back home.
Hey, Lauren,
we've gotten
can you
some
hear
really
me?
great feedback on that as well from some parents, which has been awesome, because sometimes you don't really know how it goes over at home. So,
Lauren, can you hear me?
yeah.
We've been playing with the sound here, so you've been doing fine, but there were questions that you couldn't hear. So,
if the students at CHS don't have open campus, the freshman and sophomore next year, you will see a lot more breakfast purchased because they're coming in later at 9 o'clock instead of being forced to be there at 7:35. You'll see a big jump.
6.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't doubt that. And that actually plays into the lunch counts as well, because Campbell, as of April, for the month of April, it's only at about 1,900 meals. When in the past in April, we've been at 2,600, and the other year was COVID, so I have no idea, but
Yeah, they all can leave.
with that, it'll be a lot better to, have the high school kids back in eating with us. That'd be awesome. And with the deli coming back and other ideas that we have going, it's just gonna increase it. So,
So Laura,
and that's where kind of, sorry.
Laura, our reimbursement rate from the federal government is less than what we charge the kids. It's
more.
same.
More.
It's more.
Yeah, so
it's like
for
$1
a
something more.
breakfast,
Oh.
so if a free kid gets breakfast, normally we would charge a paid kid. We would charge $1.60.
Okay.
We get $1.89 back per kid because they're free.
All right, so we're not losing money there. So it's the volume, like
It's
just,
the
And
local
lunch
revenue.
is where we
and
make
the
it
snacks
really, really
and that
great.
kind of
Is
stuff. Okay.
normally we would pay paid kid would pay $250, $240. Oh my God, $35 at Griffin and $260 at the middle and high school, and we're getting $3.89 back per kid, regardless of grade.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
it's lunch is where we kind of really make the money, but breakfast is definitely, again, 6,800 more breakfast, that's another 12 grand. So it kind of works out really nicely. Almost 13 actually.
Wow. Okay.
So
So
that
Lauren,
we
if I can
wouldn't
just
have had
ask,
otherwise.
I know that you're losing sales because there are certain items we can't sell right now. But I've still been trying to understand why are we losing money because of our cost of goods?
No,
Well, Corey's going to go
expenses
through
are
the financial
low.
bits of it, but most of it is because we don't have the a la carte and the local revenues. We haven't been doing vending this year. We haven't been doing like the chip sales we normally do, snack sales, things like that.
I get that. So that's additional revenue. My question is, then is it simply the cost of goods that we're selling, even though we're receiving more money from the state than what we would from the student, yet we're still losing money? So if we're buying strawberries for $1 and we're getting $2 back for them, we must be paying $3 for strawberries and only getting $2. That's what I'm asking. So is it the cost of
So-
goods?
Less.
Oh, sorry.
We're selling less overall.
It doesn't matter. You're buying less.
The thing
Like
with
I said,
the
Costs.
a lot of it, Corey will go through the financials on the next slide. And that's kind of really where his realm is. But, we've tried to keep costs down by utilizing a lot of our already things that are in-house, our state commodities and things like that. It is the local revenue that really is killing us. It's those extra sales. That's where we're really losing it.
it's really, and I can go from there.
Yeah, you can go, Corey, if
Yeah,
you'd like.
you think of it this way, overall expenses for the food service are down by 27%. However, when you have an 85% fixed cost rate in your program, which is salaries and benefits, your cost of food could be way down, but you're still paying the salaries, you're still staffed, you're still doing all that. And that makes a major difference. Your local revenues, I mean, you're looking at your state and federal being up 212% and 17% on state and federal. But your local revenue is down 95%.
So that's those additional sales.
Yeah. So you're looking at a la carte, you're looking at vending. Me and Mike we've been in the midst of, I'll call it, without lack of a better term, somewhat of a standoff with Coke.
I call it a negotiation.
It's a negotiation, but it's kind of a standoff. It's the same
Kind
difference.
of in a hostage situation, no?
So we're working towards that. Due to this commitment with Coke, the product that the kids really like comes out of a different distributor. So we're looking to get to that where you can get the vending machines filled and they're going to buy what they want. Plus the cost of those products is less than what we get from Coke. So we're working to do those things with vending and a la carte items being able to come back next year. Plus the fact that we're still going to get all the federal revenue from the federally funded meals. I think that we're positioned next year to make a recovery on the revenue side, especially with kids in the building every day, a la carte items that will be available to them. The snack shack could be back at LMS. That's where you make a lot of money because kids go up and buy their snacks. So I think we're positioned in a pretty good place going into next year now that waiver has gone through. Other than that, I mean, yeah, the financials this year look dire. And in my financials, I put we're at about $100,000 loss right now in the food service. That is less than where we were last year, mostly because of the implementation of the breakfast program, being able to recover some of those revenues. But the enhanced federal revenue just isn't enough to replace those local funds that we get in. And with such a high, like I mentioned, such a high fixed cost rate in the food service, it's just hard to operate. It's not a unique situation to our district. It's really statewide, nationwide, that food services are struggling in this manner.
Is there an option to bring any of that back for the rest of this year? Or what are the reasons why with COVID restrictions easing up a bit, is there an option for any of the a la carte options for the rest of the year or vending sales? Is there a reason why?
I think the major challenge at the high school is right to Liz's point. It's the open campus.
Okay.
Kids leave and go get what they want. They don't stay. Next year we'll have more of a consistency of kids in the building.
The freshmen and sophomore usually have to stay the whole school
Yeah.
day, but now they get to leave early and come in late, which.
Right. I'm thinking more LMS at that point.
Yeah.
They don't have the option of leaving. I know my kids have mentioned several times that they miss being able to go up and just buy a la carte items. And
LMS
so-
is a difficult situation right now due to staffing.
Okay.
We just don't have the staff there to offer too much at this time.
Okay.
I think we have 2 people consistently in there with a sub. Is that correct, Lauren?
No.
What? Okay.
We've started to bring back recently a very limited supply at LMS of chips. Oh my goodness, chips, fruit snacks, crackers, all the a la carte things that they did have in the snack shack. It's just a limited portion of them. So you may not get 4 kinds of Doritos, you might have 2. You know, we tried to take the most popular of each item and kind of sell that, but they are selling a la carte snacks in the lunch line at middle school. And at the high school, we also did bring back, again, a very limited variety, but we brought our sushi back. We brought our cookies back. We brought some chips back, and the kids they're buying them. So it's coming back, but just because staffing is correct that all of our buildings are down at least 1 person. The high school is missing 2 people. They're not missing. We just don't have them. And we
Fair enough.
Check the freezer.
I don't know where they went. And so that's hard to kind of dedicate somebody to a specific position. So we're trying to do the best we can with COVID restrictions that we're trying not to have the kids help themselves. We have to serve them versus, everything else. And, trying to make sure we can still have some kind of availability for that. Once the beverage company situation gets resolved, that vending machine will be back up and running. I'd like to see about putting one at middle school as well, and maybe offering a more limited variety of items. But when we had the vending machine going at the high school, it was easily $300 a week in revenue. And
Wow.
it's just a matter of getting that stuff back in full.
And-
But we are trying the best we can with a la carte things.
And Lauren, just to make sure that I have this right,
Yeah.
if we're able to relocate the coolers at LMS, the snack shack would sort of come around into that space and would not be a separate go-to. It would just be incorporated into what students are able to
It's
access.
one of those. That's one of the options
Yeah.
we can look at once we kind of reinvent that space.
Yeah.
We might do another, maybe like I'm getting rid of salad bar at middle school. I'm just going to say it now. Salad bars are a sanitation nightmare. And we're going to go with the prepackaged salads that we do at the high school. They're awesome. And we're going to train them. That's all of my goals. And, but yeah, that's definitely something we can look at. I actually like the snack shack at the middle school as a separate entity. I like it completely separate. I wish the high school had that. It just makes it a little easier for service, but that's something we can definitely look into with the reconfiguration of the middle school kitchen.
Great. Sounds good, Lauren. Thank you.
Thanks. Corey, you good on the financials so I can go to my goals?
Sorry.
Yep.
No, don't be sorry. It's all good.
I'd just like to thank you after each slide.
All right, that's fine.
All right.
So looking at next year and beyond, it's been really difficult to make changes this year. And I know that's why I'm here, and I know it's to push the program and grow the program. It has been a struggle for me to sit here and go, well, how am I going to do this with the current situation that we're dealing with and the staffing concerns and everything, and feeding kids out of the building and in the building. And, if a family tested positive, I'm driving food to people's houses, it's just crazy. So some of the goals that we're looking at this is for our leads. And I've invited any food service staff members that want to. I am developing and implementing a culinary seminar. And what this culinary seminar is going to include is how to cook and portion for 100+ people. It's going to determine and help the staff memorize how many portions are in a case, how many portions of 4 ounces does this bag have, how many portions, so we can kind of trim those food costs a little bit more and have less waste. It's also going to explore some different options to mix it up. For example, you don't have to put just croutons on a salad for a grain. You can do a flatbread. You can do pizza sticks, to kind of expand their horizons a little bit and widen that box. It's doctoring up state items to make them more flavorful, more palatable, more appealing to kids. It's presentation. It's going to cover all of those different aspects. It's what I do. And I got the idea, through the Institute of Child Nutrition, and they are offering a culinary seminar. And I looked through a lot of it and I'm like, I can just do this. So that's going to be part of the training at the beginning of the year. I'm really excited about this is we're going to introduce, once Griffin is back in cafeteria, it's very hard to make changes and do that while they're in the classroom feeding it. So we're going to introduce a try it day once a month, and we're going to do it at all the different schools. And it's mostly to try to get the kids more involved in the food services process. So it will probably be me down with a table that in a bunch of, stickers or whatever little prizes. And if you try something that, maybe you don't see, maybe it's Brussels sprouts, maybe it's sweet potatoes, maybe it's a different version of squash. If the kiddos try it and give you good feedback on it, we can know whether we can menu it or not. And at least they got to try something different. And we can try to open their palates that way a little bit. We're also going to do that at the middle and the high school, but it's going to be more recipe based. Like we have a new recipe for a chicken curry that could be really, really great, but kids, maybe aren't so familiar with curry. So a try it day would be something that would introduce them to that. And then they may be more likely to purchase it, or they might go, this is not going to work. And we can figure it out from there and adjust. The other thing I want to do, especially at the middle school, we did it at the high school right before COVID shut down, is form a task force, a student-run task force. It was myself, Perez, and then it was 4 students from all different kind of walks of life, and they were they were my eyes and ears in the lunchroom, in the lunch line. It was, what do you want to see? What do you want to see less of? What do you like? What are kids complaining about? Tell me, because then we can kind of work and tailor it that way to your cafeteria experience. So we're going to try to do that with the middle school and get, a group of kids that would be, pretty willing to give honest feedback, not just it's terrible, So I know that might be a challenge, but I'm up for a challenge. And introduce new concepts at middle school, like a deli bar. And, we did one at the high school where we have the celebrity deli where you can get the Perez sandwich or the Mrs. Taylor or the Mrs. Masterler's. You can go and get the Mr. Lecklider. You can go and get the Mrs. Thayer. You know what I mean? So it kind of is, and those are just set sandwiches, whether they design them or not. And it just brings a little more inclusivity and a little more like homeliness almost to their experience. And it's somebody they know. And it's kind of like, oh, it's like a cool little, they have a sandwich for Mr. Lecklider. Or
Can you add a helicopter mom with all vegetables in it?
What?
And hummus.
The helicopter mom is the veggie sandwich. according to Liz, that's from Liz.
I like it.
I like that one. I'm going to write that down. We do a lovely
You won't
roasted
sell many.
vegetable wrap. It's the Mrs. Callanan up at the high school.
All right, I'll take it for Jody. That's fine.
All right. It's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, and we try to feature items that the kids typically wouldn't purchase on their own. I couldn't get the kids at the high school off ham and cheese. I was like, guys, there's more to life. So that's why we implemented this, the Terry Taylor is a chicken Caesar wrap. Who doesn't like Terry Taylor? Who doesn't like a chicken Caesar wrap? So it was kind of like one of those situations. And it blew up with popularity before COVID.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that coming down the line, little tweaks and things that I did at the high school to come down to the other schools. And one of the last things, I'm going to reopen Deja Brew because I have not had the time or the staff, but I'm going to redo the whole menu. We're going to offer some specialty type drinks, something that is a little more competitive with your Dunkins or your Starbucks. I know the kids have missed it this year. I just haven't had the time or the staffing to be able to do it. And it's unfortunate. It just is what it is. But one of the things I'm very excited about is I'm going to be working with Andrea Stern to get lunch ordering through Power School up and running over the summer. So when Griffin kids are back in the cafeteria, the teachers can order their lunches based through Power School, and they don't have to do the extra little tick, tick, tick on a piece of paper. And it'll streamline the whole process. It's what they do in a lot of other districts that use Power School. And it's awesome. It's just not as detail oriented. So while they're in the classroom, we have to do the detail oriented one Because in Power School, it's either a hot lunch or an alternative,
Mm.
regardless of whether that's a yogurt meal, salad meal, sandwich meal, whatever. It's one or the other. Whereas right now we have to have an exact count of everything. And then for me personally, for a goal in June, I am traveling to Colorado to take my school nutrition specialist certification.
Ooh, congrats.
So
Yay.
hopefully, and then I'll have little letters at the end of my name. It's super cool. So that's kind of some of the goals. I have tons of them, but you know, we don't want to be here all night. So
Well, I certainly appreciate your commitment to the students and improving their experience. And I think that's, you know, kind of the task that we set before you, and you've done a great job.
thank you.
So thank you. And if you're running low on green peppers, I'm happy to come back in and slice them.
Yeah, no, you were a champ at cutting those green peppers. I touched them, so.
Any other questions for Lauren or Corey?
The ones you don't want to mess with are Devin and Mary cutting lettuce. Like
It's true.
you don't want to mess with them.
You were quite good at pumping the ketchup into little
Yeah,
cups
I had
too.
that down. I had that down
That
to
was pretty
science
good.
as well.
Because I hear there's a ketchup shortage coming up.
Oh,
Just packets.
Just
Oh,
packets?
no. Don't say
Okay,
things
we're
like
good
that.
then.
All
right, we're all set.
We're good. We're good.
Place caught on fire.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I think we're all set. Does anybody have anything else?
Thanks, Lauren. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Have a
Lauren.
good night, everyone.
Great. All right, that will bring us to new business. We have some policies to review.
Before I make a blanket statement of just approving them all,
Yeah,
why don't we just like put it out there, like who has any concerns of any of them?
well, I actually wanted to take DKC because there's a revision to it. Kind of take that separately. If we can do that one first and
Yeah,
then.
we have
Yeah.
a little explanation.
Okay, all right. So is that all right, Brian?
Yeah.
Let's look at
So if you
policy.
click on the revision one.
Yeah.
Michelle and I were reading it today, and there was a question about the sentence that is now blacked out, but I think the sentence that's blacked out is a valid sentence. It's just a confusing valid
Yes,
sentence.
right,
So
right.
basically what it's saying is that if an employee's been issued a P card, then they cannot get reimbursed if they use another form of payment. So I can't say, oh, I forgot my P card. I'll just put it on a credit card.
Mhm.
And then I'll put in for reimbursement. So that sentence really is saying, use the P card that you were issued.
Mhm.
Okay. So the question is, do you want to stick with that? I think the purpose is to, if we're issuing the P card, it's to be used.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
to
and we
not
also
be used.
we also get rewarded for use of that. We actually do get money back at the end of the year.
But I think it's
for-
also easier
so-
to track. is
Mhm.
it not?
Yeah,
Right.
and the more you use it, the more money you get back from the P card program because it's statewide with the schools that utilize.
So I think if you're
Right.
issued one, use it.
So I think the revision, it says employees who are issued a P card should not use such card for personal purchases. Only purchases for school district business are allowed under the P card program, which,
Is that an ad, Michelle? I'm sorry, that's an added sentence?
Yes, I added.
Okay.
okay,
I didn't understand that.
right.
as
That
an
doesn't
ad.
say the same thing as that previous
It does not.
sentence.
So I really think that if you want to add that sentence,
Mhm.
you also want to keep the preceding sentence. You want to
Right.
strike through it because the point is to use your P card.
I agree
But
with
that
that.
first sentence did not make sense to me. Any employee with an issued P card should not be reimbursed for any purchase. I thought it would be shall be reimbursed for any purchase unless such purchase is not
Oh.
allowed under the P card procedure. So I just thought there was an extra not there.
No.
So say it, think of it this way, Tara. I have a P card and I'm expected to use it. If I say, oh, I don't want to use my P card or I forgot my P card, so I'll just buy it on my own personal credit card and put in for reimbursement because I don't get reimbursed for the P card. It just automatically is paid by the district.
Can we say it in the affirmative then? Because I don't know. Like, any employee with an issued P card shall use that for purchases
And that only.
covered under the P card.
Must use it for.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good rewrite. I mean, we can put it more in the positive, Michelle, so that it's shall use that P card for all district purposes.
No other
and
form of
may
payment
not,
can be used.
Yeah.
may not be reimbursed for other forms of
Right.
payment.
There
That's
you
what
go.
you really want to say.
Right.
Yes.
Well, Well, and that's basically what I said with those sentences, but I can add will not be.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, will not be reimbursed for.
Yeah.
Any other purchases? Is that what you said?
Shall not be for use of another form
Or
of
use
payment.
of other,
Another form of payment.
another form of payment. That's better. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So this one's coming back to you next week.
Yeah.
Or next month, or next meeting.
Should we do it as a first reading or no?
You can.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve policy DKC expense reimbursements as a first reading, as amended.
Second.
Sorry, I forgot I had to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And abstain? 500. And let's see, so we have the other policies.
I had 3 other comments on 3 of them.
Okay.
I don't know what you want. Do you want me to just go through them?
Sure.
All right, DJD. Just was wondering if we ought to include the town of Litchfield in this specifically, because I know we work with them on different purchasing agreements.
Very few.
Very few.
That would come under local purchasing.
See, I thought this was just for other school
DJF.
districts.
This is.
Yeah.
It's just for other.
Oh,
school
I see.
districts. Yeah.
Okay, so that would come under local.
Well,
Okay.
It does
you're
say
asking about-
government agencies.
Yeah.
Right,
DJD.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
DJD.
So that would cover that. Okay, good. And then DKA. Here, I mean, my last, I don't know, 3 jobs, it's been like the standard of them has been to issue an electronic check, but then always allow the option for people who want the paper. And I feel like this is the turning point for this year. And I'm wondering if we are at that point to say that, you know, are we ready to move to direct deposit as the standard, allowing the opt-out for paper checks? Because I think the wording on here, it's just limiting. It says, hold on a second, let me pull it up, DJD. Wrong one. DKA, okay. Payroll procedures. So I think we offer electronic payments for much more than just if we are off on school vacation. I mean, we allow teachers to spread out their paycheck throughout the year.
21 or 26 pay cycle.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
for the summer vacation period too. It's also a faster way to get paid. I mean, I just think that
Right.
They don't receive payments during the summer months, though. They receive a balloon check at the end of the year.
oh, do they?
Yes.
So they get one payment going into the
I didn't
It's
summer.
realize
usually
and
the
that.
beginning of June.
Continue.
Ah.
But
So
one
did
big
you-
check.
So did you want to propose a change?
So
to
I
that
just want to
sentence?
propose that the district shall offer a direct deposit option for option to employees, the fastest way to get access to your paycheck. I mean, that was my first initial suggestion, but then my question came again, are we,
Direct deposit right now?
We already
We offer
it.
direct deposit, and probably 99% of the
Yeah.
district is on it.
oh, good.
The,
Okay.
the ones that get paper checks are holdouts that you're just
Who
never
wanna
gonna
Yeah,
get
they're
paper
just.
checks.
Ah,
oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's I know I get paid on a Tuesday instead of a Friday because I do direct deposit.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
you just know that.
here.
So we could
It's spent
just
by
add a
twice.
period after the word payment, after timely payment, period. And that way, should the pay date fall during a school vacation, it doesn't really
I
matter.
don't think you really need to add anything.
Do we need to get
We've
that
had, we've
specific?
had fallback on that. That's why the policy was written that way. People have come and said, am I going to get paid during my vacation?
Really?
Yeah, but you gotta come pick up your check.
Right. Okay.
Unless it's direct deposit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have had fallback, which was
Yeah.
why the policy was originally written that way.
We we did a purposeful reach out campaign last year
Yeah.
with the shutdown. I mean, we
Right.
really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and honestly, the people who remain at this point, that's just what they want.
Mhm.
They're not going to.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's their
fine.
right.
All right.
That is absolutely the right.
So also during emergency situations, what if somebody's on short-term or long-term disability? I mean, those are all reasons to,
Right, and we do. I mean, everybody can opt in.
We do everything we can to accommodate people
right?
when they need their.
Even if you didn't pick up your check, you mailed them.
Yeah, you can mail.
Yeah.
them.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not huge, but I just don't think that, school vacation is the only reason that we're doing it. So,
Right. I agree with you, Tara. Should we make
do
the
you want to
amendment?
just drop that extra line? The, yeah, just put the period after timely payment.
Shouldn't it just be after two employees? I mean,
Right.
Yeah, true, right? We can.
I mean, it was written in 2009 when direct
Right, when
deposit
it
was
was
kind
new.
of
Yeah.
maybe a new thing. So
Yeah.
I would say,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. So
So period after employees is where you
Sure.
want it. All right,
Yeah.
sounds good. And then, so this will be a
first read.
first read.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll procedures, putting a period after, let's see, option to employees, period. So with that one amendment.
Okay, I'll second that. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain. 500. So that is approved as a first reading.
And then I just had a quick question on DM. Cash and checks in school.
Yep.
Do PTO organizations and
Separate.
boosters fall under this?
Separate.
Different. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on any of those? All right. Do you want to make the motion, Brian?
Make a motion to approve policies DFA, DH, DID, DIE, DJC, DJD, DJF, DJGA, DK, DM. As written.
A second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Okay. Next, we have a job description for approval.
Yep. So this is for the position that was approved by the voters this year. So you know that going into that, we were promoting a tech integrator was the language that we were using. When we got into writing the job description and looking for other job descriptions and then matching it up to the certification, the state has actually shifted away from tech integrator. So we were a little bit antiquated in the language we were using, but hence technology, it changes pretty rapidly. So what you're looking at is a position title is called a digital learning specialist, and that's what the state has shifted toward. We put a /tech integrator in there to make it clear that that's what we asked the voters for. So we don't want somebody to think we come up with yet another new position. It's the position, but we are going to advertise and hire under digital learning specialist because that's what people carry for certification. And so we want to make sure that we're targeting the right pool of people for it. Okay. And then you can see the way Jason basically looking at what other districts who have this position in play have for a position. You can see the way he spelled out the duties and responsibilities. Holly then did the rest of the HR requirements for the position. So what we're looking for tonight is for an approval of this. We have an ad that is out there, but we want to make sure that we have a job description.
Great. I'll make a motion to approve the job description for digital learning specialist / technology integrator.
Second.
Discussion?
The only question I had or what I was looking at is the reports to, and it says school principal. Is it all three principals? Should that say school principals? Or is that
I think the idea was it was going to be one per school. So
Right.
it would report to the principal.
agreed? But since
But
there
at this
ended up
point, it
only
isn't.
being one, and I don't know, is this person going to be splitting their time between all three schools or?
So what the way we envision it right now is to have the person be at only 2 schools next year. We envision GMS and LMS as the schools that we want to target. And we haven't settled exactly what that time ratio is. So it could be a half a year. It could be a quarter of a year, quarter of a year, quarter of a year, quarter of a year. So we're going to work with the right person to figure out how to implement that model. But it would be at 2 schools, but they would only be in 1 school at a time. They wouldn't. We think it would be too disjointed to like stagger between schools every other day. It's like you really have to focus and accomplish a goal in a given period of time and then shift to the other school to do the same. That's our thinking right now.
Okay.
So I think school principal, it would be 1 at a time. And obviously Jason is director of technology overseeing.
Okay.
And Jason is the evaluator further down on that page.
Okay.
With input from the principal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if there's feedback on what I just explained, because that was a conversation that's ahead of the job description, but you sort of have to understand that to know where we're going.
Yeah.
I'll take feedback, obviously, your thoughts on it.
No, I think it's good. Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of approving the job description for digital learning specialists, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay? Abstain? All right, 500 on that one too. And that brings us to old business. Old
So
recurring business.
hopefully business we won't have to continue talking about next year. But let me just show you very quickly. I'll pull up the current numbers so that you see what we're looking at. Griffin is not in a bad spot. There are 3 student cases, but they were all really unknown as to how the students contracted the cases. And if you look over the course of the month, they've had 1, 2, and now up to 3. So it's been relatively steady. But a lot of these were cases that were just picked up somewhere in the family. Is not clear where that came from. In terms of quarantines, there are 3 students who are quarantined currently, and that drops down to 1, knock on wood, tomorrow. So going into the vacation, we're really in a pretty good spot. And in terms of staff, today, for example, we had 1 person out sick. It was a little higher. You'll notice on Monday the 19th, we were at 9 sicknesses. I think there were reactions to the vaccines that we had, but because we were vaccinating about 1/3 of the staff, it wasn't as great as other districts that had closed schools. So we were able to get through it. Monday was a tough day. There was a lot of coverage, a lot of pitching in to make it work, but they did get it done. Jumping up to LMS, LMS is really in great shape. They have no current cases with staff or students, and they have just 5 students who are quarantining for exposure, and those are community-based exposures because it's not school-based. And they had 5 staff members who were out today. Back on Monday, they were at 7. So again, they had a little bit of a bump coming out of the vaccines. The other thing to notice is the LMS student absence numbers are really that's like normal absences. That's not COVID absences.
Right.
So they're in a good spot with student attendance.
Do we have a copy of this? I don't have it.
It's on the drive.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's also on the website. The link is on
Okay.
the website. And then at the high school, they do have the 1 case that was identified late yesterday afternoon and was sent out. So that came down today. And that was a community spread case. They have 10 students who are quarantining as a result of close contact with that student, but also you can see there were already 4 students quarantining for community-based contact. So don't think that's all school-based, right? And then they had only 2 staff who were out sick today. It was 4 on Monday. So the high school was not in bad shape relative to that either. So that's where we are with our current COVID numbers. And again, we meet every morning and track these, and that's just been, I joked with the team the other day. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do next year. Maybe we'll just get together and say hi, because we've become so accustomed.
We miss each other.
It'll be nice if that's what we can do.
Yeah.
And it's, honestly, it's given us a daily check-in for the COVID stuff, and it's like, hey, is there anything else we need to make sure? And, somebody will say, Mike, can you stay on? I got to, ask you this. So it's really been a
great.
good use of the technology
It's not great,
by pulling us all together. So.
making the best of it.
Yep.
Good.
And the other thing I wanted to share with you is, give me a second here, because this is hot off the press. So we have been working on a student vaccine clinic. So please don't show this on the screen. But I have an email from the fire chief. It says, here's the information. Oh, here it is. So bear with me. But basically, the vaccine clinic for Alvern and Campbell High School students will be held using the administration of the Pfizer vaccine. It is open to any student at either high school who is 16 years of age or older. It will take place at Alvern, and the first dose will be on Tuesday, May the 4th, starting at 3 p.m. And it'll go until, may the 4th be with you.
May the 4th.
Yes, it will go through close, it says. So I don't know what time that is. We'll have to verify exactly what the time is. And then the second dose will be administered on Tuesday, May 25th, also starting at 3.
Great.
So we have 267 students at Campbell who qualify based on these rules. We have predicted that, many of them will get the shot. We don't know exactly what that number is going to be. We're not going to be doing the sign up or anything for it. We will get the information out to parents, and then they will do the sign up directly for the vaccine. So it's
And they
Probably have a lot of
forms.
students have already gotten the vaccine or getting it.
we know that there are many who have received it, but and we know that there are many who just won't receive it.
Yep.
But this is the opportunity. So, and what that means, if they get their second dose on May 25th by, summer vacation, they are fully immunized
Vaccinated.
and ready to go into the summer. So that's a good spot to be in. So
What happens when if our students are vaccinated, are we expected to provide something to the school nurse? I was just curious, should we send a message to the school nurse that our child has been vaccinated, or?
So let me
We
talk
wait
to
for the phone
let me
call?
bring that up in the COVID call tomorrow, and we'll ask the nurses if they want that information. We have said very clearly that we're not going to require, we're not looking to collect that, but in some cases, having that on file can be a good.
Well,
A
in
good
terms
place,
of
I mean.
contact tracing, if my kid is in a class and is a close contact, if they're fully vaccinated,
Will
don't
they
have
need to quarantine?
No.
No, so that would probably, yeah,
Well, I think that's when you can provide the nurse with
okay.
that information.
I just want to get it off my plate.
Right, I would too.
Add it to add it to my chart.
That's great news.
It's fabulous news.
Yeah.
I had shared with the nurses that it was coming together quickly, and there'd be an announcement late yesterday or today. It came late tonight, which is fine. You can imagine if we have 267, Alvern has how many, right? So
Right.
it's a lot of details, but really it's a thank you to Chief Ratzel here in Litchfield, who's been working very closely with Hudson Fire Department, right? So they're the ones who have really got this pulled together. And so it's a great partnership that we have to make this
He
work.
was also integral in bringing the staff clinic here too. I spoke with him at the
That's
clinic
his
last
job.
weekend, and he
That was
was
his
just
job.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. He's done a fantastic job. Did you skip over remote learning update,
I might have.
or did I just fall asleep? No, I think you skipped over it.
You skipped over it.
Yeah. So let me go back to my spreadsheet, and I have one more tab, which is enrollment tab. And so basically, here are the current numbers. So as of April 8th, this is, we sort of did a fourth quarter re-entry for students, and that was like the final re-entry for the year. Obviously, if there's a family who comes along with a one-off, we will work with those families, but we're no longer going to promote, hey, is there anybody else who would like to come back? This was the last big one. So at Griffin, there are now 38 students who are remote. That makes up 10% of the population. And, that's you go back to the beginning of the year, there were 88. So we've had 50 of those students integrate back in. And we've gone from 22% being remote to 10% being remote. At the middle school, we have 55 students who are remote. That is off of 90 that started the year remote. And so 15% is the current number, which is a dip from the 25%. And then the high school is at 11%. Now they opened at 13%. So they went from 59 students to 47, not as large of a drop. But they've also been more consistent throughout the year. They've had fewer peaks and valleys with the enrollment numbers. And honestly, Campbell's had, I would say, the better numbers year round. If you look back at all the spreadsheets, Campbell really has not had a lot of cases, or they've had more asymptomatic cases and then somebody else asymptomatically having the case, and it just has gone unnoticed. I don't know that we can conclude there have been fewer cases there. There have been fewer reported
I think
cases
they all
there.
had it last spring and didn't even know it. Like, seriously.
That's a possibility. That is. So is that what you wanted me to?
I don't know. It was on the
I
agenda.
think that's what I
meant. Whatever you want to brief us on, you can brief us on.
There you go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions on the manifest? Is it all signed up and
Yep.
ready to go? Okay. That brings us to public input.
All right. So I'm going to hop in and see if anybody else is waiting to join us.
You're
Now
all
that we know
alone.
what the issue is, that'll really help if someone else wants to pop on next time.
What's that?
Yeah, watching the TV at the same
Yeah,
time like
that was
that.
tricky.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I also figured out, and I don't know why the sound switched from my computer to the TV, but that was creating echoes out in the community. People were texting us, "You can't
Yeah.
understand Lauren." And I'm like, I said to Tina, I'm like, I don't know why it's not coming out here like it was
Right.
a few
It's like
minutes ago.
sometimes when you plug it in, it goes up there, and sometimes it
It's
doesn't.
I didn't
Brendan's
unplug
fault.
it. It
It's all
was-
your fault, Brendan.
It just moved.
It's
So
bizarre.
anyway,
Yeah, tell you.
but there's nobody
Haunted.
here.
Haunted Town Hall.
On to town hall.
Okay, nobody's here. I'll just remind viewers that our next meeting will be on May 5th. And in the meantime, any questions or comments can be sent to schoolboard@litchfieldsd.org to be included in community input for next week, for our next visit. I'll take a vote to go into non-public. Make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-3:311 A to C, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. I'll do a roll call vote. Brian?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Oh, one more thing. I want to wish all our AP students good luck on their tests this week.
AP?
AP
they-
testing.
Right after April break, they're going to start their testing.
Right. Starts right after.
Yep.
April break. Yep. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right. So we're in non-public.
More than good luck. Study hard.
Study
Remind them
hard,
to
yes.
study hard.
Yeah.
Not about luck.